Right, so Unit 7, Lesson 9, solving quadratic equations by using factored form. So 9.1, why would you do that? All right, so let's try to find at least one solution to x squared minus 2x minus 5 equaling 0. Choose a whole number between 0 and 10. All right, so I think what they want you to do is make a table from 0 to 10. There is another way of doing this. I would recommend that you think about your factors of negative 35. All right, so what times each other, that's a multiplication symbol, would give you a negative 35, but also at the same time and have to add up to a negative 2. So go ahead and try to figure that out. Your answer should be in factored form, right? And yes, x squared, so x times x, right, would definitely be the start of all of it. So go ahead and try to figure out what your numbers would be for your factored form. All right, so hopefully you paused the video and you tried. You could have done 1 times 35, but that would not add up to negative 2. The next ones, I believe, that would work are 5 times 7, right? Would give you 35. And the difference between 5 and 7 is 2, but we want negative 2, so that means the bigger factor has to be the negative, right? Because 5 plus a negative 7 definitely adds up to a negative 2. So you have x minus 7 times x plus 5 to be your factored form for that standard form. And they're asking you to find at least one solution, right? So notice there's at least two. If you plug in a positive 7, right, you get 0. So that could be one of your answers. Or if you plug in a negative 5, that would be another possible solution. Because if you plug in either one, you'll get 0 times some number or some number times 0, which is what you want. Zero product property, which was previous lessons, right? All right, so that's probably a much easier way of doing it. I think they wanted you to do a table and the whole bit, but due to distance learning, this is probably the best way to operate based upon what we already have done. All right, let's solve some equations. I love the exclamation point. All right, number 1, to solve the equation n squared minus 2n equals 99. It looks like we're examining Tyler's work here. So Tyler used the original equation, right? Looks like he subtracted the 99 to the left-hand side to get the whole 0. He got factored form. He did that correctly and set equal to 0. And then he broke it up. He's basically like, what do you have to plug in to n plus 9 to get 0? Negative 9. What do you have to plug into n minus 11 to get 0? Positive 11. And what? Oh, okay. So write down what Tyler did in each step. All right. So original equation. This is the subtraction property, right? He factored to get into factored form. And then he basically did the zero product property, which was what do you have to plug in to get 0? And then, of course, he just solved, right, with the addition and the subtraction property, all right, for those two scenarios. The n minus 11, he added the 11. For n plus 9, he subtracted the 9. So addition and the subtraction property for the last pieces. All right, number 2, solve each equation by rewriting into factored form using the zero product property. Again, basically any number times 0 is going to give you 0, yeah? So that's why we use it for factoring. All right, so go ahead and try A, B, C, D, and E. Pause the video, try your best. You definitely want these things to equal 0. Hint for part B there. And go. All right, so hopefully you paused the video and you tried your best just by eyeballing it here. What times what gives me 15 but adds up to 8. I know 5 times 3, yeah, can give me 15. And 5 plus 3 gives me the 8. So that's my factored form. What can I plug in for my x's to get me the 0? So you would have to solve. So x plus 3 equals 0. How to get rid of the plus 3? Minus 3. So one of your solutions is x equals negative 3. Or what about the x plus 5 equaling 0? How to get rid of a plus 5? Minus 5. What you do to one side, do to the other. So you get x equals negative 5. All right. Now what about the next one? You have to take care of the 5 first. So you have x squared minus 8x minus the 5 to both sides, which should give you 7. And now you're like, okay, how do I get to factored form? So what times what gives you 7, but it has to add up to negative 8. Hopefully you realize we're getting into factored form. We're dealing with x, right? And I know that 1 times 7 gives me 7, and those add up to positive 8. But if both of them are negative, they still multiply to positive 7, but when you combine them, they give you negative 8x, which is what you wanted. So zero product properties applied. What's the opposite of negative 7? Positive 7. Or what about the x minus 1? What's the opposite of minus 1 or negative 1? Positive 1. So those would have given you your solutions. C, right, just factored form. We're dealing with x still. I know 1 times 11, right, can give me 11. It's got to be negative though, so but it has to add up to negative 10. That means the bigger factor has to be the negative. All right, so negative 11 plus 1 is negative 10. Meanwhile, negative 11 times 1 is negative 11. So you can actually distribute and double check what I'm doing here. This is connected to previous lessons. All right, so opposite of positive 1, negative 1, or opposite of negative 11, positive 11. All right, so next one looks like it's a perfect square. You could think about rewriting it if you want. You could see it like this, right? Not quite in standard form, because standard form means from the most powerful term to the least, right? They're in order. So I just wrote it in order. Now, if I go ahead and factor out the negative, right? Because the negative is freaking us all out, right? So could try that. What else could you try? I'm just curious. Could you try not solving by factoring? Could you think about doing something like negative x squared equals 49? So I want you to think about this one. I don't want to give that one away. I feel like that's too healthy to pass up. And if you like, we can go over that in tutoring. But I feel like that's a very good one for you. All right. Boy, they really did a number here. So I want to go ahead and rewrite this by distributing first and then combining like terms and then seeing if we can factor again. So we should get that after you distribute the parentheses, right? 4x plus 5x is 9x, and 4 times 5 is 20. The negative 30, let's finally combine the constant terms. And what do we get? So we have x squared plus 9x. And then when you combine the constants, you should get negative 10. And that's all equaling 0. So now go into factored mode. We got our x's. I know 1 times 10 gives me 10. And the difference between 1 and 10 is 9. And it's a positive 9. Therefore, the 1 has to be negative. 10 has to be positive because we're looking at a negative 10 there. All right. And there we go. So what's the opposite of negative 1? Positive 1. Or what's the opposite of positive 10? negative 10. All right, that's the end of the lesson. Have a beautiful day.